The U.S. dollar is a terribly flawed currency. I mean, the U.S. is the largest debtor in the history of the world. I'm not the only person who knows that. I'm not the only person who knows that that's going to cause problems someday. That eventually there's a big problem going to develop. Um, I can remember when the pound sterling a few decades ago lost its status. It caused big problems for the world, and especially for Britain and the British. It's going to cause a lot of turmoil, just as every other currency has caused turmoil when it changed.
In the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century, the United Kingdom's pound sterling held sway as the primary reserve currency across much of the world. However, by the mid-20th century, the United States dollar had ascended to become the dominant reserve currency globally. In recent years, there have been moments of questioning surrounding the US dollar's status as the premier reserve currency. Renowned investor Jim Roggers, with his seasoned perspective, offers a critical examination of the US dollar, shedding light on its significant flaws. He particularly highlights the United States' unparalleled position as the largest debtor in global history as evidence of these shortcomings. Amidst various shocks like the COVID-19 pandemic and geopolitical tensions, such as Russia's invasion of Ukraine, nations are reassessing their trading partnerships, taking into account economic and national security concerns. Central banks are already taking steps to diversify their assets and reduce reliance on the dollar. According to IMF data, the dollar's share of foreign reserves stood at 71% in 1999, but it dropped to 59% by 2020. Roggers notes the historical trend where no currency has maintained its top position for more than 100 to 150 years, despite the US dollar's prolonged dominance. He anticipates potential challenges ahead, supported by a recent survey indicating that over half of central bank reserve managers foresee the dollar losing its privileged status. Recent trends, such as the dollar's 5% decline and its proximity to its lowest ever level against major currencies, underscore the impending shift away from the US dollar. Roggers emphasizes the historical complexities associated with currency transitions and the uncertainties they bring, emphasizing the need for clarity concerning the future of the global monetary system. Let's get back to the video.
Historically, those kind of situations, as Ray points out, have often led to problems. No currency has remained as the number one currency more than 100, 150 years, ever in history. The U.S. has been there. It's been there a long time. And the U.S. is now the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. I don't particularly like saying that. I'm an American citizen. But I own a lot of U.S. dollars, by the way. But I can see that eventually there's a big problem going to develop. I can remember when the pound sterling a few decades ago lost its status. It caused big problems for the world, and especially for Britain and the British Empire, the British Commonwealth in those days. And it caused problems for the world, because if you have a transition from one currency to something else, the transition causes problems. And as I said, I own a lot of US dollars, but I know that with the transition, when it becomes serious, it's going to cause a lot of turmoil, just as every other currency has caused turmoil when it changed. The US debt continues to go up every day, and eventually the people already, in fact, there are many countries now looking for something to compete with the US dollar. I don't know what it's going to be yet. If you know, please don't announce it. I want to buy. I
Yes.
want to buy a lot of it, because I don't know what it's going to be yet. Whenever there's a transition from the world's reserve currency to something else, there's always turmoil. There was when the pound sterling lost its status. There was a lot of turmoil in the world. You may not, well, you were a child, but many people knew about the turmoil. It caused lots of problems in the world, and that's going to happen again. When the US dollar starts losing its status, it's going to cause a lot of turmoil for a lot of people, a lot of economies, and a lot of companies. Has to. And as I say, the easy thing would be if we know where to go. You know, when the sterling started losing its status, people knew, the US dollar. We can move to the US dollar, and they did. But when the US dollar starts losing its status, and it's starting now, but I don't know where to go. I don't know a new competing international currency. Yes, it could be, should be China, but the Chinese currency is not convertible. I mean, you can't buy and sell it like you can buy and sell the euro or the Australian dollar or something. So the renminbi cannot be the world's currency as long as it's a blocked currency.
Right.
So I don't know what it's going to be. And if
A potential economic crisis could trigger a global reshuffling of economic power, drawing attention away from the US dollar and towards alternative assets like gold and silver. With China's economy experiencing difficulties, there's a rush to buy gold as a safe haven against economic uncertainties, driving prices of the precious metal to unprecedented highs. This surge in demand for gold is evident globally, with other central banks, including those of China, Turkey, and India, stockpiling significant amounts. According to a recent report by the World Gold Council, central banks collectively purchased 290 tons of gold in the first quarter of this year, marking the strongest start to any year on record. Jim Roggers recognizes the intricacies involved in such transitions and dismisses simplistic solutions like reverting to the gold standard. While he acknowledges silver's historical importance and potential resurgence, he believes that neither silver nor gold can fully resolve current monetary challenges. Let's now turn our attention to a video.
China's a huge economy, a huge everything, but it's not so simple to make the Chinese renminbi the world's competing currency yet. I don't see something else. Logically, it should be the renminbi, but there are many reasons that it cannot be yet. Maybe someday, probably will be someday, but someday is not next week. I said before, and I'll say again, when the world moves from a reserve currency, from international currency to something else, it always causes turmoil and problems. Go back and read about when the pound sterling lost its status over a few decades. You know, in 1924, the pound sterling and the British economy were number one. There was no number two. But 50 years later, 1976 to be exact, Britain went bankrupt. The IMF had to fly into Heathrow Airport to bail them out. They couldn't pay their bills. This happened in 50 years. It's not the first time the world has had this problem. It used to be the French franc and the Spanish peseta, etc. It's a Dutch guilder once upon a time. All these things have happened before. It's not a simple transition. If the Chinese currency were completely convertible right now, it would be, it would happen.
It will be clearer.
But the Chinese currency is not, if it's going to happen, it's going to be lots of turmoil. Always has been, for many reasons, and it will be again. As I say, if you know the answer, and I can see you don't know either.
That's why I'm asking you.
But if you know it, please tell me. No, I can tell you lots of things. And there are many people, lots of gold bugs, who think it will be gold. But gold has always had problems too throughout history. Silver, silver has been the international currency more than gold had. You remember Jesus Christ? He was sold for 30 pieces of silver. He was not sold for 30 pieces of gold because silver was the money in that part of the world then. When the U.S. was established, it was based on a silver standard. The first American Currency Act, 1792 or whatever it was, silver was the basis for the U.S. dollar. Now that changed, but I'm just saying, throughout history, silver has been an extremely important medium of exchange, might be again, but neither silver nor gold can solve our problem now because there are too many problems with silver and gold.
You might ponder over how the dollar manages to persist despite various monetary challenges in the U.S. Several factors contribute to the resilience of the greenback, with its status as the global reserve currency being paramount. However, a significant concern lies in the borrowing and spending practices of the U.S. government. China has notably been at the forefront, steadily accumulating gold reserves for 17 consecutive months through the People's Bank of China. These actions raise questions about the stability of the dollar's dominance, with some speculating whether Chinese gold reserves could be the tipping point. We value your insights, so please share your thoughts in the comments section. If you found this content valuable, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to stay updated. Thank you for joining us on this journey.